If you are anything like me, it's probably safe to say that communication issues and then the conflict that comes from that plague your marriage as well. And then here's what happens for me. That becomes so exhausting that it's actually easier to just not communicate. But when I get to that point, good luck enjoying the rest of the aspects of the relationship I actually want to enjoy. So for me and communication in my marriage, there was something that when I understood it was a game changer for me that completely changed the way that I operate and communicate in my marriage. And I think it could be helpful for you as well. So that's what I want to talk about in today's video. Before we jump in, if you've not already downloaded the free guide to intimacy, you'll see a link in the description area below. And if communication is an issue in your relationship, and if you're in a relationship, then it is, because that's all of us, I want to encourage you to check out our Closing the Communication Gap video course. This is probably, honestly, the best and most effective resource that I've ever created. And it's got 19 videos, 4 modules, ton of worksheets, but it will fundamentally change the way you communicate, help correct some issues in your relationship. And guess what? If you use the coupon RelationShots, you'll get $100 off. You can check out the link for that below as well. So for me, the game changer came when I was reading a book called Peacemakers by Ken Sande, and he went through a passage of scripture that I've seen hundreds of times, read hundreds of times, fully understand, but in a way where he showed a progression that I want to share with you that has helped me change how I interact in my marriage. And so the passage of scripture you may be familiar with is James 4:1-2, and I want to read that for you. It says, "What is the source of quarrels and conflicts among you? Is not the source your pleasures that wage war in your members? You lust and do not have, so you commit murder. You are envious and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel." Anybody see a repetitive word in that passage? You. Yeah, you, your, is you. It's you. The problem in your marriage when it comes to communication begins with you. I know you don't think it's you think it's them, which is why you're coming to communicate to them, but it actually begins with us. The problem that we have, the root source of all of our conflicts in our marriage is us, and guess what? It is our desires. And there's a progression that happens that I want to walk you through. We start with a desire, it moves to a demand, then moves to judgment, and then it moves to punishment. And I want to take you through how we get there, because I believe if you can recognize it in your own life and in your marriage, it will help you change the way you communicate, because I know it did for me. So let's start with the first level, desire. We all have desires. We have desires in our relationship. I desire things from my spouse. I desire things with my spouse. I desire things in the relationship, and desire by itself is not inherently wrong. Now, there are good desires and bad desires, right? There are bad desires like greed and lust and things like that, but there's good desires. Like, I want connection. I want peace. I want a relationship. I want some different things in my relationship, and there's no problem with that. But what happens is when we have a desire and it's not being met, the way that we should resolve that desire is one of two ways. One, maybe that's something we need to take to God, and it may be a desire God can fulfill that we're trying to fulfill in our spouse. Or it may be a desire in a relationship that we want fulfilled from them, and we go and have a conversation about it. And if they don't respond, I would encourage you to go to a counselor together or get a trusted friend involved if they're not hearing you. But what happens is, if our desire is unmet over time, resentment will begin to build up, and it grows in us, and it doesn't stay as a desire. It now moves into the next phase, which is it becomes a demand. And when it becomes a demand, our language and our communication is going to change a little bit, because what we've decided is we have decided that this desire is essential for our fulfillment or our enjoyment in the relationship. And because we're not getting that stuff, it requires us now to demand of our spouse that we get that thing. So biblically speaking, this may be called an idol. Because it has become so important to us, it now is controlling our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors. And when that happens, guess what? Our language around it, our communication around it is no longer, loving, grace-filled, kind, gentle, because it's become an idol for us. And so it's not just something we desire, it's something that we now are demanding that we get from our partner. But guess what? It doesn't stay there. When we have that demand and it's still not being fulfilled, we'll move to the third phase, which is we now judge our spouse. And here's the reality of it. Basically, what we're asking for, without saying it, without being conscious of it, is we are asking that our spouse would now pledge allegiance to our idol. Dude, why are they not bowing down to our idol? This is the idol. They should totally bow down to the idol that we have. And if they're not going to do it, guess what we now feel is okay in the relationship? It's okay to condemn and criticize them because they are not meeting our desires that have become an idol. So we start judging them. We start attacking them. We start, instead of, this is the one thing that instead of us being able to stay on the issue that we have, we move up to the next level and we start attacking the person. We start questioning the relationship. Because this thing has become an idol for us, we now feel that it is okay to judge this other person based on the standards and conditions that we have placed in the relationship, all due to the desire in our life that had become an idol in our lives. But guess what? Because we're so kind and gentle and loving and godly and selfish, we don't just stop at the judge place. We now move to the fourth level, which is we punish them. Because our spouse is not meeting the desire that we are demanding of them and judging them by, they now deserve punishment. You know what? You're not going to bow to my idol. You get to get punished because you're not meeting the desire that has become so full grown in me. It has now become an idol. So you know what? I need to punish you for not meeting that. And here's what happens in our communication. When we are not recognizing that maybe even a healthy desire has become an idol, has become a demand, we have started judging and we have started punishing. When we don't know this is even happening, you can guess our communication in our relationship is not going to go well, is not going to be received well, is not going to be delivered well. But oftentimes we don't even know what was going on. And this is why it was such a game changer for me, because it allowed me to dial back and go, hold up. Why am I getting so bent out of shape about this thing? Why is this thing so important that I'm getting resentful and I'm getting angry and I'm getting bitter? And when I get to that place, I feel justified in attacking and demanding and judging and punishing, all because I wasn't willing to recognize, hey, it started with a desire. And oftentimes I wasn't even communicating the desire. I was just assuming that they should know and want to meet that desire. And when they didn't, I would get frustrated and I would quickly move up, oftentimes when I hadn't even communicated it. Other times I might communicate it, but I didn't feel like it was received. And instead of trying to come back and communicate again, I would just jump from, well, they didn't hear me that time, so now I'm moving into demand, judge, punish. Now, I didn't know I was doing these things because I wasn't aware of it, but when I look back, I could see how I was doing that. And this can happen so fast that we don't even recognize we're doing it. And guess what? It can start from a very good and healthy desire. Let me give you an example. Just we'll say hypothetically, because not like I ever really did this in my own family, but just hypothetically, here's an example. Let's say my desire was, when I'm working hard, I'm away from the home, and I come home, my desire was to come into a home and just experience some peace. Right? You would agree with me. That's not a bad desire, to have peace at home. I think we should all want that. Well, it just so happened, maybe hypothetically in that season, my wife was home with our 3 girls who were young and were a lot of work. And so let's say hypothetically that I came in the house hoping for peace when I walked through the door. That's my desire. And you and I have already agreed, that's not a bad desire. It's just a desire. But when I came in, instead of peace, what I found was chaos. Loud kids, a messy house, the kids running around asking, what are we going to eat? And my wife wondering what we're going to have for dinner. And you know what? My desire quickly moved into a demand because this is not what I wanted to come home to. And so I said to myself, hypothetically, out loud to them, dude, Don't you think I deserve to come home after a hard day's work and actually have a little peace before everybody starts bombarding me with all these desires and wants and needs and we need dinner? Don't you think I desire a little bit? In fact, I need a little peace when I get home. And then instead of just staying on the demand level, maybe I moved into judgment and started saying, you know what? Why can you kids not even act right? What is wrong with you? And to my wife, can't you keep these kids in control and the house in order when I'm gone? I mean, I'm working all day. This is all you got to do. And then maybe I don't even stay on the judgment. Maybe I just move into the punish phase and go, you know what? No, I ain't getting you guys dinner. In fact, I'm going to go have dinner by myself in peace, head back out the door and go get something to eat by myself. Now, hypothetically, if I came home later that night, do you think I would be well received into the home by my wife? Probably not. It all started with a good, healthy desire. I just wanted some peace. But because I wasn't managing this well, it became a demand, turned into a judgment, turned into a punishment, and anything I was saying after that was not going to be received well because my communication was not good in the relationship. So you can see that there's probably 100 different ways I could have handled that better. But you probably have a scenario in your relationship where something similar happens. And what I was not recognizing in moments like that, hypothetically, was that there was a desire in me. As James says, it was waging war in me. I wanted something. I didn't get that thing. Now, he's a little extreme. He says, you lust after this stuff and you don't get it, so you murder. Now, I wasn't killing anybody, but I would kill people with my words. I would hurt people with my words because I had a desire in me that was unfulfilled. And in response to that, I demanded, I judged, I punished. So for me, it was a game changer. Whenever I started finding myself in a place where I was moving towards demands and attacks, if I could get to a place where I could first check myself and go, okay, what is the desire that I have? Is this healthy? Can it be met somewhere else? Have I communicated about this with my wife in the past? And if I hadn't, I needed to take a step back, rethink this, and address it at a later time. If it was something that maybe could be met in a different way, in a healthy way, maybe I needed to do that for a season. If I communicated and it wasn't able to be met, maybe I need to go back to God and see if God can meet it. Maybe I need to talk to some trusted friends and see if there's other ways to do it. But what this allowed me to do to really understand this and why it was a game changer for me in communication in my marriage was instead of just going straight to demand, judge, punishment, and having communication that didn't work in a relationship, I was able to take a step back, evaluate the desire, and then ask myself some questions around that desire. Am I expecting too much? Have I communicated about it? Am I being gracious in this? Am I being kind in the way I communicate it? And it changed the way I communicated in my relationship. So I want to challenge you. If communication often doesn't go well in the relationship, maybe you need to take a step back and say, what are the desires that I have that I'm starting to get resentful and bitter about because I don't feel like I'm getting them? And then how am I in turn communicating with my spouse about those things? And if it's not good, then I would tell you to evaluate maybe some other ways you can manage and handle that, because it won't take very long for you to move from a desire to punishment and then wonder why communication is not going well in the relationship. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Drop a comment in the comment section below. Again, if you need better communication in your relationship, our Closing the Communication Gap video course will change the way you do communication in relationship. Check it out. You'll see a link in the description area below, and use the code RelationShots for $100 off the course. And if you need some more help in the area of communication, check out my video, 5 Communication Killers. I think it'll bless you. I'll see you next time right back here on RelationShots.